Hi everybody, Brian from Steeda, spotlighting some Go Fast springs for Magnerite equipped Mustang GTs and EcoBoost models, as well as Shelby GT350 and 350Rs. Hold those shoulder straps tight, and here we go. Today we're talking about the fastest set of springs you can install on your Magnerite equipped S550 Mustang, the Steeda Ultimate Handling Dual Rate Springs. These are a true dual rate spring that transitions from a softer rate into a stiffer rate. We're gonna come back to this in just a moment, but these things are the fastest springs you can put on your Mustang. These will bring down those lap times as well as those autocross times and still be perfectly streetable. Let's begin with differentiating a dual rate spring from a conventional coil spring. The dual rate springs are a true two-rate spring. They have a softer rate section and a stiffer rate section. It's similar to having two different rate springs combined into one. And these are different from a normal progressive spring like our sport progressives in that it is only two rates versus starting at one rate and gradually transitioning into a stiffer rate. These start at one rate and then transition into a stiffer rate. What does this mean to you? We're glad you asked. The advantage is that as you're throwing the car around the racetrack or autocross course, you're gonna have one end of the car that's being loaded and one end of the car that is lifting some. And because of the dual rate nature of the springs, the side of the car or the end of the car that's lifting a little bit, whether it be the inside of a corner or the back of the car under hard braking or the front of the car under hard acceleration, that end of the car, side of the car remains in the softer rate. So there's actually less spring rate pushing up on the car. Likewise, the corner or end of the car that's being loaded goes into the stiffer spring rate. So that means flatter cornering because you're now getting into the stiffer rate on the outside while the inside's on a softer rate, not pushing up, as well as the front of the car under hard braking will be in the stiffer rate. The back of the car will not come up as much because it remains in the softer rate. And under acceleration, same thing. The front of the car is not going to come up as much and the back of the car is going to settle into the stiffer rate. This translates into a better handling and faster car around a road course or closed circuit. It means less dive under braking, less roll under cornering, and less squat under acceleration. And for those of you that are really putting the cars through the rigors of a road course or again, an autocross course, all of these things cross over with one another. You're almost always doing any number of these things at the same time. Braking while cornering, accelerating out of the corner, again, neutral throttle through the corner. And the point here is to have a balanced setup that's controllable. This is a huge advantage to running the Steeda dual rate springs. When you're going through a corner and the inside isn't pushing up as much because it's in the softer rate, obviously the weight transfers to the outside and is in the stiffer rate, as you're transitioning through corners and catching those rumble strips, especially at a bumpy track like Sebring Raceway, the car stays far more composed because the inside, lighter part of the car, if you will, is in the softer spring rate. This means that it will absorb it without upsetting the car. And when you're not upsetting the car, the driver has more confidence. When the driver has more confidence and feel of the car and ultimately control, this means faster lap times. Moving on to the streetability of the dual rate springs. Because of the dual rate nature, these ultimately stay predominantly in the softer rates. The front springs are 195 pounds at the softer rate and 300 at the firmer rate, and the rear springs are 800 at the softer rate and then transition to 1300 at the stiffer rate. So again, on the street, we're predominantly in the softer rates. And to best sum up the ride quality, I like to chalk it up as being close to, let's say, a BMW M3 or Porsche GT3. They are definitely stiffer than the PP2 springs and the GT350 springs and pretty close to the equivalent of a 350R spring. What's important here though is that it's not harsh, it's not bone jarring. In fact, I've driven on these a number of times and this would be the setup I would use for a daily driven car that I'm taking to the racetrack. Now, obviously, I've been doing this for a while. I'm kind of spoiled, so there you have it. The reality, though, is these are really a good dual-purpose spring. We call them dual rates predominantly because of the dual rates, but there is a dual purpose here. We want you to be able to enjoy the car on the street as well as at the racetrack. We do recommend adding in our camber plates so that you can set the camber where you need it to be, whether for street driving and a little bit less negative camber, or for you autocrossers and track day guys, bring it all the way in. And to further enhance that, maybe look into our strut tower cutting tool. If you need even more negative camber, really anything over 2 degrees, you start looking into having to use that tool. As with other Steeda springs, these are constructed of high silica steel. It's lighter weight and much more consistent, so we can ensure that the spring rates are exactly as advertised. In addition, we test each set of these as they come through batch by batch. Again, we want to make sure that it's going to last the lifetime that you have the car, as well as whatever you're going to do on the racetrack with it or autocross course with it. And we back these with our lifetime warranty, so regardless of what you throw at them, you know that they're going to last the length of the vehicle. Furthermore, we proudly manufacture these in the USA. So there you have it. The best, fastest handling spring that you can get for your MagneRide S550. Great streetability, again, a little bit taut, but not overly harsh. And all of these things we factor into our ultimate handling dual rate springs because speed matters. If you enjoyed the content of this video, please click like and share it with other enthusiasts. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we show up in your YouTube feed, and that way you're kept alert of the latest videos that we're coming out with. And speaking of these videos, to see the latest and greatest that we're up to on social media, definitely check us out over there. To learn more about these, many of the other great products we offer for the Mustang, as well as other Ford vehicles, go to steeda.com. Thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic day.